Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Beyond Disabilities. This episode is a special episode celebrating Disability Pride Month. At the time of recording, it's July 2024, and in the UK and across the world, it's traditionally when Disability Pride celebration are held to celebrate the disabled community. So I'd like to introduce you to my brilliant guest today. Charis has joined us. Charis is a historian, a competitive sabre fencer, and author. She also has autism, dyslexia, and dyspraxia, and has been featured on Friends of the Podcast, Girls Interrupting, Women's Crush Wednesday, and please check Girls Interrupting out on Instagram. They do brilliant work all with dyspraxia. So, hi, Charis. Welcome to Beyond Disabilities. Please can you introduce yourself?
Hi, James and listeners. So I'm Charis. I'm 25 years old. As James has said, I'm dyslexic, dyspraxic, and autistic. I fence Sabre. I write articles on disabilities, mine and other people's. I also write history articles, including one I recently wrote on the ATS involvement in D-Day. I run the local group for adults with dyspraxia for social reasons in the Midlands. And I've recently, after the closure of the Dyspraxia Foundation, I joined to a community group called Dyspraxia Central, and I admin on there as well. And I'm also one of the advocates, part of the Dyspraxia Collective as well.
Oh, wow, that sounds brilliant. It sounds good. You sound like a very busy person. You do a lot of things, and it's great that you've got your hobbies, but also your advocacy work as well. So thank you for joining me today. So please could you describe what your disabilities are and how they affect you on a daily basis?
So I'm dyslexic, dyspraxic, and autistic. Dyslexia, just people think it's just reading and writing, and it's not necessarily. I struggled for 25 years. Well, not quite 25. Babies can't tell the time. So most of my life to tell the time. I went to the dyslexia show with my husband, and we ended up buying this watch. It's actually for children, but then I was like, I can start to tell the time now.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, so obviously aids like that, even as an adult, are good because people think learning difficulties stop when you're no longer a child, and they don't. In fact, they can become harder because I'm
Yeah.
25, which most charities and stuff seems to be the magic number where you can no longer access help.
Oh no, that's not good.
No, so then obviously you have to learn to do a lot of it yourself, and you're moving into another stage then. So maybe you're married. Well, I'm married to a he's 25 as well. He's called Oscar. He's not diagnosed with anything, but
Yeah.
through being married to me and being with me 8 years, he's realised, especially in the last couple of years, that he probably does have some things too. So, and obviously, I put my keys down lots of places. Do I know where they are? No. I mean, I know where they are right now, but
I know that problem.
most of the time. Obviously, as I mentioned, I'm married. That has its challenges. I'm not very good at keeping my house clean, like you see online houses, and they're like immaculate. That is not my house.
Oh, who needs a show home? Like, it just shows that it's lived in and it's a proper home rather than a show home. Don't need to keep your house clean all the time, really.
Yeah. And obviously, I fence Sabre competitively. That definitely has its troubles because first of all, I'm the only female from Birmingham Fencing Club to fence Sabre. So I fence in
Wow,
a
that's
bunch
an
of men.
achievement.
Yeah, I fence with a bunch of men, which has its biological disadvantages.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also the only disabled Sabre fencer. So that comes with more challenges. So I'm disadvantaged twice, unfortunately. And just dyspraxia in fencing, at least, because this is obviously what I do,
Yeah.
is not classed as a disability. So I've got to fence. Obviously, in competition, it'd be females with females, but still, I've got to fence a fully able person, and I am not. And it most of the time does not end particularly well.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear it, but I take my hat off to you. Like, honestly, the
Thank
only
you.
female in like the Birmingham fencing club, that's an achievement in itself. But the fact that obviously you've got disability as well, like you said, has its own challenges. Like, wow, well done. No, you should be proud of yourself. That's an amazing achievement.
Um, as you mentioned, obviously, Girls Interrupted, I was in mentioned on there. The reason they actually contacted me is because they hadn't met they had never met a dyspraxic fencer, so they were like, "That's interesting. We'll see if we can contact her." And they messaged me on
Yeah.
LinkedIn.
Oh, Sophie and Laura, they're just so
Yeah,
lovely. Like, honestly, I've got all the time in the world for them. Like we work quite a lot together on some stuff. So yeah, no, they're brilliant, and especially like with dyspraxia within the female community as well. Like not really something that's talked about. So the work they're doing is just brilliant, and I'll
well, with
definitely
my fencing, for example, I was fencing in Leicester last month.
yeah.
I was doing very well. I was second.
Oh, well
After this
done.
thing called pools. So pools is you get put in a group,
Yeah,
must be at least five, can't be more than nine.
yeah.
But you don't want to be in a pool of nine, they're horrendous. But
Imagine.
because there were seven of us, I believe. That's one pool. I was second.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
incredible.
thank you. After fencing to five, so yeah, I fenced obviously five other people, six other people, because obviously I'm the seventh. You can't fence yourself.
Yeah,
Um, I then fenced someone who was towards the bottom of the list. She was sixth in the um what they call direct elimination.
yeah,
If I could have beat her, I would have. No, sorry, I was third after pools. If I could have beat her, I would have gone home with a medal, would have held on to third, then would have gone into the semis, possibly got second, wouldn't have got first. The woman was significantly better than me, and that's all right. I couldn't do it.
yeah.
So the fight that I had absolutely no business losing, I lost it.
Oh,
So
well, you should still be proud
mm,
of yourself. That's incredible, that what you've
yeah,
done.
thank you.
You're welcome. So please can you explain your journey of your diagnosis with your disabilities, sort of like the process of how you got diagnosed and your family's reactions and
Yeah.
emotions.
So when I was about six, the doctor sent out three autistic specialists to see me, but because the autism diagnosis, especially in the early 2000s, because this would have been what, 2004, 2005, something
Yeah,
like that. Obviously, I was born in 98. Um, what they looked at was still very boy dominated.
yeah,
So they looked at me and was like, well, there's nothing wrong with her. And then they left. And so that was that for the autism. And then most of my life, people have said to me, like my mom, like some of my friends' mums who worked with disabled people and stuff like that, you're autistic.
yeah.
But I never really wanted to know. Then I decided a
No.
couple of years ago that that was fine. Came to terms with it, then wrote about it in the space of 1 week. So, dyslexia. My mother's dyslexic. My uncle is incredibly dyslexic. He can only read capital letters.
Yeah,
And my granddad was dyslexic. And obviously, dyslexia has an element of what's the word? Passed along from your family,
oh,
like
genetic.
genetic or hereditary. Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah.
Um, and so I'm dyslexic, but because well, at least I was when I was a child, hyperlexic. So I read books significantly older than my age.
Yeah,
Like I was like 5, 6 years old and reading Harry Potter, slightly aided, but I was reading it. It wasn't read to me.
yeah. That's brilliant.
Like, so this meant at the first primary school I was at least, they thought I was stupid and gave me books significantly under my age and then wondered why I was bored and therefore sleeping. So
Yeah,
the second primary school I went to realised that I didn't even need to read stage books. So I could just read whatever I wanted.
yeah,
But my mum tried to get them to test for dyslexia, and they says, well, "We don't need to. She's fine." Um, when I was in school, so year 10, year 11, so 14, 15 years old, I was very, very bad at maths.
Yeah.
It took
I'm
me,
terrible at maths.
I'm not sure exactly whether it was 3 or 4 attempts to pass my GCSE maths. In the end, I passed it by having my teacher, my sister's teacher, and a tutor given to me by the school from Aston University. They were studying maths at Aston, and every past paper on the known universe to get a C.
Yeah. Oh,
But
bless
I
you.
did it. So
Yeah, well done. Exactly, that's the main
it,
thing. It doesn't matter. Sorry to interrupt. It doesn't matter how many times you do it, and like you did it, and that's still an achievement, and like you overcome your dyslexia, and you managed to get the C in maths at GCSE, which is brilliant.
English, though, people think English would be really hard, and it just wasn't. So I got a B in English language. I think I was 13 years old because
Yeah,
I did a precursor to that is I sat my GCSEs in year 9, year 10, and year 11 because back then they thought it was a brilliant idea.
yeah.
But the school cancelled that. So then I got a C in the end, but that was because my teacher went away because she was pregnant, and the substitute was not very good.
Yeah.
So I started skipping the classes and teaching myself. So I got a C.
Wow, well done.
Um, thank you. Yeah. Then in year 11, I sat English literature. I got a B. And when we were studying in Inspector Calls, I said to the teacher, "Could you look at it this way?" And he was like, "Nobody ever has, but I believe you could." Because I see
Remember that.
um, learning difficulties mean you can look at things from a different perspective.
Definitely.
I then studied English literature at A level. That did not go well. And I got a D. Um, my A levels were not surprisingly, they were very bad. I got 3 Ds and a
That's the
merit
same as me.
in art and design.
Oh, well
I
done.
did all 4 subjects. Thank you. Yeah, I did all 4 subjects in both years, even though you're supposed to drop one. Because I didn't want to drop at A level. I wanted to drop the B Tech. But you can't drop a B Tech because you can have an AS level. You can't have half a B Tech. You've got one or you
Oh, I
don't.
didn't know that.
Um, but I got, as I said, 3 Ds in psychology, English literature, and history. History and me at GCSE got on very well. I got an A, 3 marks off an A star at GCSE because of a stupid mistake I made in one of my papers. Um, at A level, me and history did not get on. I got a D, and when I was doing tutors, when I did the past papers, I got a U
Yeah.
constantly. And the teacher said, if it was a memory based test, you would come top of the entire country.
Yeah.
Because you need to interpret it and you just can't seem to do that, you're struggling. But she did really quite help
Oh,
me.
yeah.
It was actually when I was doing my A levels, so when I was 15, that the psychology teacher, who was actually the head of sixth form as well, and my teacher who taught me Russian history, who was one of the Senko leads as well, both decided, I don't know whether they got together or whether it was a separate analysis or what. Like clearly something was not right there. So
Yeah.
I did a test, but this test basically is black and white. It says something wrong, nothing wrong. And the verdict was that was something wrong. I therefore got to type my A level exams. Was in a separate room therefore because I
Yeah.
needed to type them. Got extra time, all of this stuff. So the Russian history teacher, he was called Mr. Halligan.
Yeah.
He came up to me A level results day and said, "You're dyslexic." I just could never prove it. So he
Oh,
wrote me a letter-headed paper, a letter about this and the stuff he'd put in place for me. I was going to Nottingham Trent University. For about 2 months, I went back and forth with them beforehand, saying, "Test me, give us your
yeah.
information, don't have it. Test me, give us your information, don't have it." In the end, they did agree to test me.
Yeah.
So in the October, this would have been 2016, got tested, and the result was dyslexia with motor neuron dyspraxic tendencies.
Oh, wow.
That'd have been 18.
Yeah.
I went going back to the sixth form as well, though. I wanted to go to university. I'm the first in my family to go to university.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
went to the Mr. Halligan in absolute tears because I says I can't get into university because I'm not doing very well here. And he sat down with me and he helped me work out that I could go to Nottingham Trent University because I actually only needed to get D's.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice of him.
At university, I did reasonably well. There were a couple of teachers who didn't get on with me, but there
Yeah.
was a teacher, there was a professor, Martin Bennett, his name is, and he taught me English Civil War.
Yeah.
He very much liked me. He really wanted me to be his protege, but I wasn't particularly interested. So I did. He really helped me because I misunderstood the date my assignment was due in, and a magazine piece for him because he didn't make us write essays. He said, "No one in life is going to make you write an essay, therefore it's pointless."
That's
I
very
misread
true,
the
very
date.
wise.
Yeah, so I went to him in absolute tears and said, "Please, can I have an extra day?" And he just said to me, "How long do you want?" And I ended up with another, can't remember if it was 1 week or 2 weeks extra, but he just kept saying, "How long do you want?" Until I said, "No, that's fine, thank you." And I went to him afterwards and said, "Seriously, thank you so much. I wouldn't have a degree if it wasn't for you." And he said, "Well, it was the right thing to do." And I said, "Well, not everybody would do it."
It's true. You have to
So,
fight for it, unfortunately, which is
yeah,
like,
so I ended up with, at Nottingham Trent University studying history, I ended up with a 2-1 by about 3 marks.
oh, well done.
Yeah, thank you. But on
That's
your certificate, it just says up a second. So,
I know it confuses me with that. They
yeah.
tell you your grade, it's
Yeah.
completely different on the diploma
Yeah.
itself.
My dissertation, I researched it for over a year, but I wouldn't sit and write it. And
Yeah.
the dissertation supervisor who I had was a pushover. So she'd say, "Can I have your next chapter?" I would just say no. And she'd say, "Oh, okay then." So I ended up writing most of it in about 3 days. So I wrote about 10,000
Wow,
words in about 3 days.
that's incredible.
Yeah. And then when I went to my master's, then in 2021, yeah, I went to University of Birmingham,
Yeah.
which is obviously an elite university. It's one of the Russell Group universities to study masters in history of warfare. I got a merit. I did quite well there.
Wow, that's still incredible. The fact that not just once you got a sort of like a 2-1, but then you got the equivalent and a merit as well when you went again. That's absolutely amazing. You should be like definitely
And
be really proud of yourself for this.
yeah, and then when I was studying for my masters, I decided that I might want to do a PhD in the future. And the
Yeah.
teacher there, Daniel Whittingham, he said to me that I'm not a traditional candidate for a PhD, but I definitely could make it work because I'm very persistent and like to make
Yeah.
things harder for myself than they need to be. Because I wrote my
The best
master's,
people are.
yeah, I wrote my master's thesis on the Women's Royal Army Corps, gender sexism in
Yeah.
the British Army, 1949 to 1992. And one of the reasons I picked it is because it seemed to be a gap in subject area. So I got some books and stuff on it, but
Yeah.
they don't seem to be their own book. They seem to be part of a book.
Oh, okay.
In the future, I do actually want to write a book on the Women's Royal Army Corps.
That would be really, really interesting because it's not, I've not really, I'm not, I mean, I do keep up, I am interested in history, but I've not really heard of or seen any books about that particular like issue and sort of like period in history. So that'd be really interesting, very unique.
I can send you as well articles that I've written because I've written articles on quite a few things if you wanted to read them.
Oh, absolutely, send them. I'm fascinated by history. I get that from my mum. Like, definitely, I'd definitely be interested in that. That'd be brilliant.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. That's really, really interesting. Like, honestly, you should be really proud of yourself. Like, you've come like so far. Like, similar to you actually. Like with my A levels, I found them harder than, and I got 3 Gs as well at A level. But similar to you, in my masters and my undergrad degree, I got 2-1 and a merit as well. I got 3 Ds at A levels. I don't know why. I just think A levels are sort of probably harder than like degrees in some respect, and not
Yeah,
sure.
when I started my A levels, I was told by the teacher I've mentioned previously, Mr.
Yeah,
Halligan, actually, that it is a step up, but you don't believe them, do you? So he gave us
no,
a past paper hoping we would fail so that we would then turn around to him and say, okay, this is
Yeah,
harder.
you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I found the GCSE to A level harder. You're then told it's a step up A level to degree, but I didn't really find it to be. It's
No.
then a step up undergraduate to masters, which it is. It absolutely is. But I still found it to be really quite manageable. In
Yeah.
fact, when I was studying my undergraduate, because you're what, 18, 19 years old,
Yeah.
you haven't learnt moderation yet or timekeeping
Oh,
and things like that. So you view it as all or nothing.
oh,
Whereas
absolutely.
when I was studying for my master's degree, I worked at Tamworth Castle 3 days a week because I needed extra money. And then I also started writing freelance journalism articles for a company called Freshard.
Yeah.
And I wrote articles as well for the University of Birmingham newspaper Red Brick. I managed to do, and that's also where I learnt to fence. But at this point, I was fencing foil.
Yeah.
So I can managed all of that by being obviously more flexible and adaptable, which is not a skill you know at 19, 18,
Oh,
19
no,
years
I
old.
completely agree with you.
Sometimes, obviously, I'd have to say, oh, I'm going to have to leave that for now. But by managing your time effectively, you don't really need to give up that much.
No, not really. I completely agree with you. Like, and you just need to learn sort of a balance. You need to just break things down, especially with dissertations and projects, like in a manageable thing, and think, oh, okay, so I've got X amount of time to do this. If I did this amount per day, if it's dissertation, for example, this amount of words,
Yeah.
then yeah, you don't need to. You need to like you can still do the things you want to do, and
Well, I
you
was actually ahead of my master's dissertation, but at one point I went to the teacher, to the lecturer, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm behind." And he said, "No, you're not. Absolutely, you're not." But I went to Holland
yeah.
in the period in which you're supposed to write your master's dissertation about 3 weeks before it was due, so I was very aware of that.
Oh wow, I can
But
imagine.
before I went to Holland, though, I had all of it written except for the introduction and the conclusion. So when I came back from Holland, do all of the rewrites suggested, write the introduction, write the conclusion, and I did get it in on time.
Oh, well done. That's incredible as well. That's even more amazing the fact that you went on holiday as well, but you still managed to sort of like do the rewrite. Well, that's brilliant. Like well done. Like thank you for
Thank
like
you. Yeah.
sharing that,
When I
Charis.
was doing my masters as well, so as I mentioned, I wrote for the University of Birmingham newspaper Red Brick.
Yeah.
I believe, but I'd have to check the dates to be 100% sure that that was the first time that I wrote an article on my disabilities. So I wrote a piece for them called "We Are Dyspraxic and We Are Sick of Judgment."
Yeah. Oh, that does
That
sound good.
piece, I actually put that piece forward for best comment piece with the Student Publication Awards.
Yeah.
It didn't win, but it did make the shortlist.
That's fantastic. Just
Yeah,
being on the shortlist is like
thank you. Yeah.
incredible. And no, honestly, like I've got a lot of respect for you after like hearing like all the brilliant achievements that you've done,
Yeah.
which feeds me nicely into the next question. So I said at the beginning of the podcast, this is a special episode celebrating Disability Pride Month, which was initially celebrated for a day in Boston, in America, in 1990, was the same year as the signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act. It then obtained a month-long celebration in 2015, and in the UK, it's been celebrated since 2017 each July. It's a month for people in the disabled community to celebrate being proud and being unapologetic themselves. So, Charis, please can you describe what makes you proud to have disabilities?
Um, People always say it's a superpower, and I've never really liked that phrase.
Yeah,
But disabilities, they do have obviously negatives, but they also do have positives. So as I mentioned, I'm able to look at things in a perspective other people aren't.
yeah,
I can. I'm quite kind and caring, and obviously it makes you quite unique. It unfortunately can get you bullied, as it has most of my life. But a couple of years ago, I just decided that it doesn't really matter that much, and you should just be who you want to be, really.
oh,
And you'll meet the people who are right for you to meet. So disabled people normally flock to other disabled people, and they will treat you far better anyway.
Oh, they will definitely will. I found that in the last few years.
Like I says, my husband's not actually diagnosed with anything, but through being with me for 8 years, and especially since I started doing this advocacy work a couple of years ago, he's
Yeah.
realised that he probably has some things too, but that's fine.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, I can see society is becoming more accepting in a way, but it does have a long way to go still. So, obviously, a couple of years ago, LinkedIn listed dyslexic thinking as a skill.
Oh, wow, I didn't realise that.
Yeah, they did. But there are still some disabilities that people seem to be more okay with than others. Like, I'm a female autistic, and people say, "But you can't be autistic, you're female." And you're like, "It's not how
Oh,
that
that
works."
annoys me so much. Or say, "Oh, everybody's got a little bit of autism in them." They don't.
Yeah, it's definitely a spectrum, but it is not a spectrum as in everybody's on it. Once you are
No.
on that, if you are on that spectrum, it's a spectrum.
Yeah, 100% agree with you
So,
there.
like, obviously, I have a job, and I'm in the what something like 10% of autistic people who have a job,
Yeah.
because some of that's to do with bias, but some of it's also to do with the fact that some people can't hold down a job.
Oh, exactly. I know some of my friends who are autistic who yeah, they can't sort of like have a job, whether it's to do with medical conditions, disabilities, or just simply the fact that because of their disabilities they can't hold a job. I'm like you, I'm lucky enough to be in the 10% that does have a job. Like I've got a full-time job, work Monday, it's Monday to Saturday this week. Well, Monday to Friday, I've got a day off today. But yeah, I know so many people with disabilities just simply can't, either because workplaces aren't accommodating, because of their disabilities, it might be sort of like a health risk if they did work. But no, I feel grateful that I am one of the 10% that can that have a job at work.
I'm really lucky as well, though, that the Sabre coach I've got will work with it.
Yeah,
So he knows the difference between I can't do it and I won't do it.
yeah.
So if I
That'll make
won't
you
do it,
manage.
he's like, "You know how to do this. Come on, we're gonna do it till you do it." Like, and then when it's clear that I can't get it, like I'm not understanding it, he's like, "It's all right.
Yeah.
We'll move on."
That's a very fine line, isn't it? Like, it's good to hear that your coach is so supportive and willing to be like,
Yeah, my husband is similar as well. He knows, when I don't want to do it or
yeah,
I can't do it. And again, he'll be like, "No, you can do this. You're just being ridiculous. Do it." But then if I can't do it, he's like, "It's fine. Don't worry about it." Like,
I know there's a fine difference. Like, I know my mum's my mum's the same. Like throughout my life, she always pushes me to sort of like not let my disability sort of define who I am, and sort of like with certain skills like growing
yeah,
up. Like she knows, and like I do as well. Like, okay, I've got dyspraxia, so I can try as much as I want to ride a bike, but I'm never probably going to be able to ride a bike.
yeah,
However,
my mum's similar. So my mum says that we were at a party once when I was young, and this doctor said to us off the books, "Your daughter's dyspraxic." But the problem is, he didn't say to my mum how to actually get that formalized or anything.
yeah. Oh no,
But he
that's
did say to her, "You can't get rid of it, but you can sort of work." I don't know the correct words, but make it so it's less of a problem, I guess, by
yeah.
getting her to do things that require coordination rather than shying away from it.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's about finding sort of like your own way to sort of like support yourself and like manage
He
certain.
never told me though. So I was about 15 when she
Yeah.
told me. And then obviously I was 18 when it was actually on a piece of paper.
There's all you never really known since then. But at least like you've got the diagnosis, and like it's not, although it is that I was diagnosed at two, I'm one of the very very lucky people, and I'm very aware of that. It's not too late. You're not like 40 or 50 or what like some adults are who don't get a diagnosis till then. What what I'd just like to ask you now is that do you think that your disabilities and some disabilities coincide with certain mental health conditions? Um, if so, like what mental health conditions do you think coincide with neurodivergence, and do you think more support is needed?
a lot of people obviously have anxiety or depression.
Yeah.
So I'm not diagnosed with anything, but in the past I have gone through difficult periods. So when I left one job, but I was waiting to start another job, there was like a whole 6 month period where I
Yeah.
was not doing very well at all.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Like, yeah, thank you. But obviously I've got a very supportive husband. They've got very supportive parents, luckily. Whereas I know obviously lots of people don't have that.
Yeah.
I know anxiety is quite a common one because people with neurodivergence or with learning difficulties don't can struggle to do new experiences because they don't know the end result.
Yeah.
And some of it's caused by, unfortunately, the bullying that most people go through. So obviously I've been bullied most of my life. Um, and that obviously will cause things like confidence issues and self-esteem
Definitely.
problems and that sort of thing. For a while,
Okay.
I had an eating disorder, but I'm fine now. It was about 11 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad to hear that you are doing okay. That I've had a couple of friends who've got this eating disorders. Yeah, it does take a lot to sort of like
I
manage.
was a bit too chubby for a 13, 14-year-old, and bullies will definitely tell you about that.
Oh, I'm
So,
sorry to hear that. I was
yeah.
really about it's just
Mm,
horrible. There's no excuse for it. Like teenagers, especially, I think, sort of can sniff out any differences or
yeah.
disabilities, and like, they sort of like just go for it.
Oh yeah, my friend likes to joke that professionals can't tell you different, but children definitely can. So,
Oh, 100% definitely agree with that. So, thank you for that, and thank you for being so open and honest. I completely agree with what you're saying. So, and to give you some background, like in 20, what are we now, 24, 2022, 2021, I was formally diagnosed with clinical depression and clinical anxiety. For years, I thought my low mood and um, sort of like my nervousness was just the autism, so I just shrugged it off as it was just autism. But it wasn't. I'm clinically depressed and clinically anxious as well. So what I just like to ask, just one last question is, what are your wishes for the future? What would you like to achieve? And do you think anything needs to change to help support you and other people with disabilities?
let's say I'm currently looking for a job because unfortunately I'm on a fixed term job that's not
Yeah,
going that well. So obviously I'd like to get a
yeah.
new job.
Keep my fingers crossed for you.
Obviously, also as you mentioned, I've been nominated for various things, which I'll go through now, and hopefully I'll get some of them. So obviously, I was nominated for the National Diversity Awards. I had 406 votes, but I did
Wow, that's
not make. Yeah, thank you. But I did
wonderful.
not make the shortlist. I found out on Monday. I have been shortlisted for the Shaw Trust Disability 100 Power List, so I should find out at some point this month, I think,
Yeah,
if I'm going to go into the next stage. So I'm one of the, I think it's 350 people to be on the short list, but then obviously they're going to cut it down even more
yeah,
then. To um, I'm waiting to hear as well about the D30 impact list. I should hear this summer as well about that. So that's an international list
yeah.
of advocates, but obviously there's only 30 of them. So,
Still good enough to be
yeah.
nominated, though. Still
And then
brilliant.
lastly, as well, I've been nominated for the Celebrating Neurodiversity Awards. I've been
That's
with the,
amazing.
I can't quite remember who that's with. And I've been nominated twice. I've been nominated for basically advocate over 25, over 21, and stereotype buster, particularly for my fencing.
Yeah, wow.
And then the other week I went to lunch with the Lord Lieutenant and of the
Wow.
West Midlands, and there were 350 volunteers there.
Oh, wow.
I was one of the 50 representing Birmingham, and the reason I was there is because I was nominated for the West Midlands 50 West Midlands, as it's called,
Yeah.
for the fact that I run my adult social group for dyspraxia in Birmingham. That's why I was there.
Well,
So
that's
obviously, hopefully, I will get some of these. Obviously, not just out of selfishness, but out of the fact
no,
that
no.
I'm hoping that dyspraxia is not really spoken about. So maybe if I'm winning some of these things and getting some media attention and stuff like that,
Yeah.
then that will bring it back to the community. Obviously, I don't think I can solve the problem on my own, but hopefully, I think maybe it could contribute to it.
Yeah.
Oh, and in February as well, I was a finalist in the Learning Disability and Autism Leaders list. I didn't win, but I did get a medal for being a finalist.
I mean, first, I've just got to give you like a round of applause for that because honestly, those are awards that are incredible. And I'm sorry you didn't get the ones you didn't get, but you've got so many nominations. It makes me so happy that you're being recognised for all of your amazing
Yeah.
work and your hobbies as well. So if the voting panel is listening to this, please give Charis a vote. If any employers want to offer Charis a job, please feel free to reach out to her. But I just want to say thank you so much, Charis, for joining me.
In the
This
future as
pod.
well, obviously, as I mentioned, I struggle with my sabre fencing. I think I got to 75th in the country, but
Yeah,
it's on a points-based system, and you get the points by going to competitions. I can't quite
yeah,
explain it because I don't quite understand it, but obviously more points higher up the rankings.
yeah.
Because I couldn't attain any recently, I've actually dropped in the rankings, so
Good to
I
hear.
don't even know where now, but it's near the bottom. So I'm hoping that in the next couple of years that maybe I could make 50th in the
Yeah,
rankings.
that would be great.
Just to
So
shine some understanding on that, there are about 150 women in the rankings because you've actually only been able to fence sabre
yeah,
basically since I've been born, so about 25 years
yeah.
thereabout.
Oh wow, still relatively
Yeah,
recent then. Well, good luck to you with your
thank
save
you.
as well,
Well,
and
I
with your
think it was 2004 when the FIU, so that's the International Fencing Federation,
yeah.
approved.
Oh wow, it's not long at all. Really.
No.
That's still relatively recent. But thank you so much, as for being a guest on our podcast. I really appreciate you coming on, sharing your stories and like your insights into all your disabilities. Just want to say thank you to the listeners for listening to this very special Pride Disability Month episode of Beyond Disabilities. To all those who celebrate, I know last month was the general Pride Month to everyone. Remember that you're all loved, that love is love no matter what your sexuality, gender, identity, or disability. And we should celebrate everyone's sexuality and disabilities and make this world a more inclusive place for everyone. If you're in the UK and if you're like confidential talk professional regarding um, disability issues, you can contact Mind, or any LGBTQ issues, you can contact Stonewall or Switchboard via phone and email as well. And I just want to say, just remember to spread the love. Remember, Pride isn't just Disability Pride isn't just for July. We should be accepting, inclusive of everyone every day. And remember that you can go beyond your disabilities and that they don't define you. And if you want to listen to the rest of the podcast, look Beyond Disabilities up on Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you listen to your podcast. Once again, thank you, Charis, for joining me on the podcast today.
Oh, it was also Dyspraxia celebration in this month, isn't it? But I can't quite remember what week.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, happy Dyspraxia celebration as well. Yeah, I can't remember. I think it might be
It used to be in October, but the Dyspraxia Foundation, before it closed, moved it over to July because they said there was less going on in July than October, so it wouldn't get lost.